You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. I am your host, Rick Franzi, and we have a fantastic show planned for you. Why do you ask? Because Todd Watts, who's the CEO and co-founder of PatientFi, is our guest. Todd, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on the show. Let's get right into it. You're an entrepreneur. You're a co-founder. Tell us about your motivation to start PatientFi.
Yeah, so PatientFi, we partner with doctors across the country to offer an affordable alternative to pay for healthcare, and that's across plastic surgery, ophthalmology, fertility, dentistry. The motivation for myself and my co-founders was there really wasn't a clear alternative for patients when they walk into a doctor's office and they find out that LASIK is $8,000. And not only did the staff, they didn't have a really clear, easy way to be able to offer that patient a way to pay monthly over time for something. And it not only was clear to me as in my personal life as I was going into doctor's offices, but I'd been in a similar business before, and the current offerings that were in the market really were coming up short. So it was a way for us that we knew it was a market that was underserved, and a market that if we put together the right team and the right technologists, we could offer something that that was a custom, just like healthcare in a lot of other ways. You walk in, they give you a piece of paper to fill out. We could digitize all of this and offer a very easy, convenient way to pay for healthcare that's more affordable.
So healthcare is an interesting business because much of it's covered by your insurance. People don't really check, but then when it becomes elective or surgeries or procedures that for whatever the insurance company hasn't negotiated to pay for that, that's really when people get sticker shock a little bit about how much our medical system actually costs them. So I can see where you're providing a service to help them. But how long has PatientFi been around?
We started PatientFi in 2017.
And when did you and your other co-founders really believe the business was going to thrive like it is today, Todd?
So it was one kind of key, it was in a few practices that we tested it in early in 2018. And then when we knew we really had something, and that is when we started teaching and working with the staff of these practices to start changing the way that they quoted procedures. So if it's Botox, instead of saying in a med spa, telling the patient, it's going to be $700, would you like to move forward? Actually telling that patient, hey, look, you can get Botox and it's $99 a month. Or if it's in a LASIK surgeon's office, training that staff to tell them, hey, look, when they ask how much it is, don't wait to see if they're not sure and then you can offer them financing as an alternative. No, proactively use our technology platform to offer them LASIK for $299 a month. When we saw the dramatic results of how fast the practices grew that we partnered with, we went, whoa, wait a second. There's clearly a need for patients here that's not being served by the existing incumbents. Practices clearly aren't doing this. And that's when we really started investing in the business.
So that's interesting because they really do frame the client experience on your behalf, don't they?
That's exactly right.
And it's so important how they position it. I'm wondering, let's talk about the niche that you serve. We sort of touched around it, but who are you helping, the problems that you're solving, and then how are you seeing the people selecting and choosing PatientFi as a way to basically finance the procedures that they want to have done?
Yeah. The statistic that I refer back to a lot, and it was a pretty conductive, extensive research study done by two companies in collaboration, Payments and Paya, and that is that if all patients that ultimately didn't move forward with a procedure, whether it's plastic surgery, ophthalmology, cash pay, not covered by insurance, if they were all presented with a monthly payment plan, 40% of those patients would have actually moved forward with some form of procedure. So let's start with the practice, right? The benefits are clear to a medical practices. It's a way for them to be able to increase their sales, increase their conversions, and help more patients. by offering monthly payments and making their procedures and services more affordable without having to actually reduce their prices. There's a big difference between reducing your price, your cost, and just making something more affordable. We make it more affordable. They can increase their sales. And that's kind of been, is a key to this whole thing. Is the problem is we help the providers, that kind of in turn then helps the patients by definition, because now we can have a lot of patients, whether it's LASIK surgery or dental care, or whatever it is, they can get these life-changing procedures that they thought they weren't even eligible for, because it's, not the average American doesn't have $10,000 in their checking account. So we help them be able to get access to some, usually in a lot of cases, cash pay procedures that aren't covered by insurance are, in some instances, even medically necessary, that are life-changing. And we see it as that we're being able to provide a fair, transparent financing solution to help people access the care that they want.
So do you consider yourself and your company in the healthcare industry or in the financing industry?
Jeez. We're out. It's like a tightrope between everything. I would say that it's really three industries, and probably in the following order. One would be technology. The whole platform would be nothing without we have more technologists and data scientists in a building than even it's larger than our sales team.
Wow.
So building the platform that our financial partners then plug into. So PatientFi is not a bank, but we have banking and credit union partners that we're able to partner with to offer loans. We do all the data science and underwriting. And then our clients, yes, are in healthcare. But I'll tell you is that our solution is portable. While we're exclusively focused on the healthcare industry and the market that we serve, the technology it could be portable to a lot of other industries one day and used just as much to finance something like outside products, whether it's home improvement and other things. But today we're just exclusively focused in healthcare.
Do you feel that you're disrupting this healthcare space then? Are you a disruptor in the space with what you're offering?
I would, I don't know what the threshold is when you actually are starting to cause enough noise to be a disruptor.
Okay. Well,
I know that we've caused a lot of noise. And I'll tell you why and it kind of goes back to that same thing that I mentioned before is, this industry has been dominated for the most part by one, maybe two players for several decades. And when an industry is dominated, there's not a lot of innovation, right? Why?
Yeah.
And where we, I think, have really changed the paradigm is to say, look, we can offer a fair financial product to the patient. We can charge a reasonable fee to the practice. And if we can start to change behavior using technology where it's very easy for the practice to be able to start offering payment plans, and it's not so much that awkward conversation when you're like, this person looks like they're struggling with the price, maybe we'll offer financing.
Right.
Just create a turnkey solution. The reason why that can create a lot of disruption is, well, now you're starting, I told you, reasonably change how much sales a practice is doing, because you're not just giving them the finance tool to go figure it out. You're actually giving them the finance tool with the procedures and its technology tools. That's pretty simple. We do very little training for our software for the practices. They can kind of do that job for them to be able to quickly say, plug in the price for the procedure you're trying to market in your practice to patients. It spits out a monthly payment, and you can send it in an email to prospective patients, and whammo, now you have a totally a product or service that was perceived to be unaffordable by many, that now is quite affordable and you're reaching new demographics. You're able to convert more patients. People start paying attention when you're starting to have those kind of results with your partners.
It feels like you're taking some of the friction out of the business that the healthcare provider, the physician has, the friction around cost and resistance to that.
Yes. And there is, there's so much opportunity, and I live and breathe within the healthcare space and payments within healthcare, and particularly the workflows of how practices work. And there's so much, and for entrepreneurs out there that are looking for an industry to focus on, there's so much friction within the healthcare system. And when there's friction within a system, in workflows, there's leakage and cost leakage, and there's inefficiencies. And anytime that you can come in, it creates problems and solve problems. You can create a wonderful business about that. And that's your point, where we focused is, geez, there's a lot of friction in how payments and alternative payments and cost-effective solutions are offered to patients. Why don't we kind of bring in the latest technologists, and we're going to focus entirely on this problem to make healthcare more affordable using payment plans.
And therein lies the disruption that I was asking about earlier, is you're looking at a different way of doing something, because people get imprinted with a bad experience. Let's say they're excited about LASIK, and then they really sit down until they get the sticker shock of how much it is. And that, I think, has a deadening effect for people to do other important elective surgeries that they may need, but just fear they can't afford.
And even more so, if you provide a very clunky process, you use the word friction. Think about it like this: it's not quite like buying a home where the mortgage is very much a part of it and everyone's expecting it, and it's a very integral part of how you're going to do this. When you're considering a LASIK procedure, to have to go through a very, paper intensive, hard to understand, exotic financial product, and try to figure out how that's all going to work and the affordability and payments, that's a lot to deal with when you're thinking about, geez, should I undergo, I'm going to have, lasers done on my eyes. And when what we try to do is like, look, as long as we take care of the patient and we're in a clinical setting, and let's make sure we're offering a fair financial product, make it really easy. The patient's got enough going on, and the practice staff has got enough going on. There's no reason why, with the technology available to us, we can make the payment part of that pretty seamless, and everybody kind of is able to walk away from it without having to go through too much of pain.
So my personal anecdotal story is that my wife aspirationally wanted to have LASIK done for quite a while. She wore contacts. It was always a challenge for her. Her eyes never really felt good with the contacts. She didn't want to wear glasses, but she had to have corrective eyes since she was a teenager. So she looked at how much it was, and we really had to plan for that expense and make it a priority that eventually and her life was different. You wake up in the morning, she could see all the commercials that you hear for the LASIK surgery. My personal experience is that's what happens for someone who no longer needs glasses. If there would have been a easier way for her to afford to do it, we would have done it probably years earlier than she did.
That's right. And it's a ticking clock for a lot of these procedures, whether if it's someone who wants to do a cosmetics procedure, aesthetic procedure, or if it's LASIK, or a lot of these things, the sooner people get access to them, right, the more that they're able to enjoy or be able to benefit medically from the procedure that they're getting. And again, this is all and it's critical that you're offering a fair product. This can't be something where, and it's part of our tagline is friendly way to pay. And it's that for a reason that, you're in a clinical setting, you have to offer product. We offer interest rates as, we even have 0% loans, and quite a lot of our loans are 0%. And it offers the patient an opportunity, right, to be able to pay over time and access treatments earlier.
So I'm enjoying this conversation. Thank you for being so willing to kind of go deep into your business model. But let's look at the other side of your business, which is attracting banks and financial institutions to want to support what you're doing at PatientFi. Take us back to when you first started talking to them. Did you have some type of relationship that made that work, or were you in there explaining to them a business model that maybe at first they were either unclear about or unsure about, or did they immediately go, "That's a great idea, let's partner with you"?
No, they did not do that immediately. It's an interesting business, and in the sense that and everybody, look, you have a manufacturing plan, you have customers. I mean, everybody has to deal with multiple fronts. So we're not a complete outlier, but it is different in the sense that we have patients and practices that we're working with, but then also a key kind of constituent of our ecosystem, right, is, to your point, credit unions and banks, and it can be difficult because it's quite circular. And what I mean by that is, and particularly in this day and age, it's a lot of fintechs are having a lot of problems given liquidity and interest rates. As you go to these banks and credit unions, go, hey, look, we'd like to, be able to partner with you to originate loans for our patients and of our medical practices. And they say, great, show me a track record of all the different loans that you've done over the last 5 years. And it's like, well, no, we actually just started the company. We don't have anything like that, but we know what we're doing. Give us a shot. It took a long time. And now we do partner with deposit, which we call deposit-backed institutions and credit unions. But at first we had to borrow at very high costs. We went to private equity and actually originally high net worth investors, and had to raise money and do that, first $1 million in loans. And it was really with loans from individuals. And then it got bigger and we were able to kind of scale up. And then eventually you have a track record and go to banks and credit unions. But that was one of the hardest parts of the whole business, was being able to prove that, hey, look, our team knows what we're doing.
Right.
We're the right people to partner with.
But, sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good. Starting in 2017 was probably a more favorable environment than maybe if people that are trying to do what you're doing in 2023.
No question. And it's a smart comment. And right now it's very difficult for those, let's call all of us non-bank lenders and even banks and credit unions in today's environment, where you have, a lot of loans are out there and banks don't have a lot of liquidity. As I mentioned, interest rates are where they are. It's a difficult time to get started. And, I talk to a lot of people starting fintech companies or point of sale lenders or companies like ours. And, I hate to say it, but there's a part of it that says maybe you should wait a little bit and launch when in a more normalized environment, because it's very, very difficult. If you just read the news about how fintech non-bank lending is doing.
Yes, there's a lot of emotion behind business, and you have to factor that into your decisions. Speaking of emotions, I'm wondering, you're a co-founder, but you're also the CEO of PatientFi. Have you ever felt in this role alone or somewhat isolated as you've been making decisions and leading and scaling the firm?
Yeah, I do have the support of, we have a great board. When we started the company, we set up a board immediately, and it functions like if it's a public company, and it has always been that way. But the day to day, I would say eventually you get used to it, and it's part of the reason why you love the job. And that is that sometimes you have to make a decision. No one's going to make it, and you're going to be wrong. And there's real consequences for being wrong, not just the people that work for you, but also the quality of the business or your investors. And part of I think it's a muscle that you learn to exercise, but over the years, and I've gotten better at it. But yeah, it gets really lonely when it's your call. You might know too much detail about it to really be able to go to your board and ask for advice. So you're kind of on your own. And I think that one of the isolating times is when you're first learning to say, look, I'm going to make a call and it's okay if I'm wrong. I have the confidence that I'm going to be able to correct course and get back on the right track. And but the first couple of times you make those decisions, those are some sleepless nights.
Yes, they are, my friend. Or at least what you're doing is the hardest thing to do in business, which is to create a business from nothing. Business is never easy, but bringing up a business when the world doesn't even know they need you or how you're going to help them is a real challenge. I'm wondering, throughout your career, Todd, have you received or given any piece of business advice that you would like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I'm not going to share a bit. Well, I'll indirectly share what's been told to me, and so it's my advice, but it's not my brainchild. But I was told very early on in my career, and I don't mean to say a bumper sticker comment, but it's so true for entrepreneurs, and that is put people in place around you that fill gaps that you're not good at. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs will think that they have to be able to do everything, and I have all the skills that the culmination of all the skills around me. And I think I would have been able to move faster in my career and in business if I would have said, look, and sometimes you got to humble yourself and say, I'm not so good at that, and I better get someone that makes me feel kind of stupid in that category, and I want to bring him as close as I can to me, And the more that he can remind me that I know nothing about that, and he or she is the person, it's for the better. And that, I think, as I've built out, because once the company grows, your job is to manage people. And that's sometimes the hardest decisions, to know, this is a person you need to let go of, or this is a person that you need to hire. And that has guided, in the executive team level, has been a big guide for me. And heck, that might eventually be, I look in the mirror and I'm an owner of the business. This guy can do the CEO job or gal better than I can. And that's the same thing. And that is, you'll produce better results by, humbling yourself and knowing to pick people that create a team that kind of fills everybody's gaps. And I don't care what kind of product you have. At the end of the day, unless you have a patent that's going to cure cancer, the people are more important than the product, because you'll figure it out if you got the right people around you.
Yeah, I thank you for that, because unless you're a solopreneur, you shouldn't be the smartest person in your company and all assets of your business.
That's exactly right.
Thank you. So let's talk about tomorrow, Todd. We'll have you back on the show at some point in the future. Maybe you'll still be the CEO of PatientFi, or maybe you'll be the chairman and just relaxing on the beach. I don't know. But let's talk about, what's the future hold for PatientFi? What's your vision for the firm?
Yeah. So we're still in complete growth mode, and it's in this environment that's choppy. I look at it like the ground shaking for a lot of our competitors, and a lot of so this just created a lot of opportunity for us. We're expanding into other specialties, into medical specialties. Where we want to take this is to emerge really as a new payment solution in healthcare, and that means once PatientFi and the specialties we're in when people start to, in general, refer to Botox as being $99 a month, or if it's LASIK, when things start to really be coined as a new way to price procedures, that's going to be PatientFi, because that's where we're leading, and we're making unbelievable traction. I think when it reaches to that point, we'll be making a real difference. Not just, we're in several thousand practices today, but I think we could be in 50,000, 100,000. From there, now you can start to do really neat stuff. And what I would love to see PatientFi, where it could go well beyond financial technology, be able to help with practice management, and help practices and patients in a lot of other areas. We have the team around us to be able to do that, to make real differences in the elective healthcare market. And I'm having a blast. So I'm not going to be going on the beach anytime soon.
Certainly not today. It's probably still cold and rainy. We're having winter here in Southern California, ladies and gentlemen. So watch out. If someone would like to connect with you on LinkedIn, or find and learn more about PatientFi online, where do you suggest they go?
Yeah, well, first of all, I always reply and do my best in a timely way on LinkedIn, and I'm on LinkedIn. But as well as PatientFi, www.patientfi.com, and shoot us an email. We're always we're growing. We're looking to hire. We form partnerships in all different categories. So and I love to meet new people, hear about their backgrounds. So please reach out.
Well, I want to thank you for being generous with your time today and a guest on our program.
It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank the audience too, because you've been a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. Todd's episode was episode number 1421 in our archives. And if you're an Orange County entrepreneur who has a story to share, then reach out to me. I'm Rick, R-I-C, Franzi, F-R-A-N-Z-I, on LinkedIn. That's also my website, rickfranzi.com. Would love to have you on a future episode. And until the next time we have a chance to be together, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.